I have a childhood sweetheart who grew up with me. In high school, she had a boyfriend who was a school bully. That boy smoked, drank, and fought without missing a beat. Every time the school bully got into trouble, she always asked me to take the blame, just because I had good grades. The teacher knew that if it was me who did it, he wouldn't trouble me. In the end, I was killed by them, and my parents' hair turned white overnight. When I opened my eyes again, I found that I just had a nightmare. Everything in the dream hadn't happened yet. I was ecstatic. This time, I threw off the hand that my childhood sweetheart had placed on my shoulder. One ding-ling-ling. A familiar bell rang, and the lunch break was over. I opened my eyes suddenly. The pain on my body seemed to have not subsided. What came into view was the familiar campus. On the blackboard was written the countdown to the college entrance examination sprint. Didn't I die in that alley outside the school? Who saved me? I remember before lunch break, Willow came to find me. She said she forgot to bring her exercise book. Her mom sent it to the school fence. She asked me to go and get it for her. Originally, it could also be taken inside the school, but Willow said that she wanted to eat the steamed buns from the bun shop at the school gate. I simply left the school. Since falling in love with the school bully Steven, Willow's academic performance has plummeted. I am very happy that she can focus on studying again. Without hesitation, I unthinkingly satisfied all her requests. Who knew that when I took that 5-year college entrance examination preparation book from my aunt and came back with the steamed buns in my hand and entered that inevitable dark alley? What greeted me was a blow to the head. The intense study in Senior 3 made me neglect exercise. A group of social youths in their 20s and 30s beat me up so badly that I had no strength to fight back. In the dim alley, I lay on the ground, half dead. My blood splattered on the wall. There were scars everywhere on my body, hands, and face. The 5-year college entrance examination preparation book in my hand was out of place with such a bloody scene. The big white meat buns were also stained with sporadic bloodstains. My eyes were injured and the world fell into darkness. At the last moment of my life, I only heard the sound of a zipper. A smelly and scalding liquid was poured on me. This bookworm didn't even dare to make a sound. It's really boring. With his cowardly look, does he really have the guts to mess with our big sister-in-law? The pain occupied all the space in my brain. I didn't quite understand what they were saying. But thinking about the fact that Will often asked me to take the blame for her boyfriend before, I realized that I was probably a scapegoat again. I looked at my watch and somewhat suspected that it was just a nightmare I had. Richard! The familiar voice rang out. I looked back. Willow was wearing a white gauze dress and running towards me. Since being hit by Steven's basketball when passing by the basketball court once, her heart has been captured. Since then, she doesn't even wear the school uniform anymore. She has been criticized by the whole school several times. Her name is always on the disciplinary notice, and it is always listed together with Steven's records of fighting. Not only did she not change, but she was also proud of it. She proudly said to me, "See? Heaven supports us. This is so coincidental. There are more than 10 people on the list. Why are my name and his name ranked together? Richard, do you think he might also like me? Too. Willow and I are neighbors. We grew up together. From kindergarten to high school. We are in the same school. It's not an exaggeration to say that we are childhood sweethearts. I once thought I knew her very well. But when she said these words, I suddenly felt that she had become so strange. Hey! What are you in a daze for? Did you listen to me?" Willow pounced and put her arm around my shoulder. "What's the matter?" I threw off her arm on me and looked at her coldly. She seemed not to feel my coldness. She took a few steps closer to me and lowered her voice and said, "Richard, I want to ask you for a favor. Steven stole the money that the teacher put on the desk. Now the teacher has found that the money is missing. Can you take the blame for him? The teacher is our homeroom teacher, and is always known for being strict. Steven is the student who gives him the biggest headache. If he is caught, The teacher will definitely punish Stephen with the strictest school rules. I sneered in my heart. No. Why should I take the blame for him? I refused without hesitation. Willow was stunned. She probably didn't expect that I, who had always been obedient to her, would refuse so simply. Her eyes were slightly red and she looked pitiful. Richard. Only you can help me with this. You have such good grades. If you take the initiative to talk to the teacher and find a suitable reason, he definitely won't be willing to scold you. I was speechless by her. In order not to waste time, while listening to her rambling, I opened the exercise book and started doing problems. Okay. Don't even think about this matter. If you have time to persuade me here, it's better to discuss with your little boyfriend how to write the self-criticism later. Willow's tears fell. Richard. You were very good to me before. When I was bullied when I was a child. You always stood up for me. Why have you changed now? You said before that as long as I ask, you will definitely help me. I remembered the things from when I was a child and felt a little uncomfortable. Willow's family conditions are not good. Her dad is in poor health and can't do heavy work. Her mom has to take care of her dad and also do several jobs. She often wears clothes that have been washed so much that they are whitish. She is also quiet at school. Once, she was robbed of money by a few hooligans. I was very angry when I saw it. Not only did I fight with people for the first time and help her get the money back, but I also proposed to go to and from school together in the future. After that, we often played together, studied together, and made progress together. Like what is written in many campus novels. We occupied the first and second places in the grade at school. If Stephen hadn't appeared later. Willow. Have you ever thought about what consequences there will be if I take the blame for him? The teacher and I have a good relationship. How can I be a person in front of him? Willow bit her lip and didn't speak. I have my own future. I have parents who have placed all their hopes on me. I won't be like you and be willing to degenerate. Willow's voice was crying. Richard. I really have no choice. Stephen can't be expelled. If he is expelled, we will be in a long-distance relationship. I will definitely have no mind to go to school at that time and will skip classes to see him. Do you want me to do this? If it weren't for that real dream, I might really be persuaded by her. After all, I have always been very concerned about her studies. Thinking about the oath we made together in our freshman year of high school to be admitted to the same university. But now I am afraid that only I still remember this. I don't want to take care of her anymore. What does her future have to do with me? As long as she said that she was thinking about Stephen's future, I would think highly of her. What you want to do is your own freedom. But I won't take care of you. If you want to skip classes, then skip classes. I am not your parents. I have no right and no obligation to take care of you. When she hesitated and came to ask me if she could fall in love with Stephen, I had advised her. Did she listen to a single word? Wasn't it all in vain for me to talk? Later, because of Stephen's few words, she would blame me and blame me for blocking their happiness. Willow was scolded by me and felt very wronged. Then you help Stephen one last time. I can repay you. I looked at her expressionlessly. How are you going to repay me? I can break up with him and be your girlfriend. I seemed to have heard some huge joke and couldn't help laughing out loud. What hope do I still have for her? A dog can't spit out ivory. She is no longer the Willow she used to be. Willow's face turned green, and then white. What are you laughing at? I am laughing at your shamelessness. Willow. What do you take me for? What do you take yourself for? I waved my hand and drove her away from my desk. Sorry. I am probably not on the same path as you. From today on, if it's not about studying, don't come to me anymore. You don't study. I still have to study. I didn't help take the blame that day. But later, I don't know what method the two of them thought of. Although the teacher was full of anger, he didn't really punish Stephen. Stephen looked at the teacher on the podium with disdain and sat in his seat intact. On the contrary, Willow disappeared for an afternoon and didn't know where she went. Later, when I saw Willow's mom come to school, grab her by the ear and drag her home, I realized that she had gone to take the blame for Stephen. The teacher understood the mystery and also wanted to help Willow again. So he called her parents and persuaded them earnestly. After that, Willow not only didn't realize her mistake, but instead always looked at me with some resentment, as if accusing something. She also tried to stop me at the school gate and walk home with me. But I didn't give her this chance and ran away quickly every time. Unexpectedly, on the weekend, she directly came to my house. Willow, I haven't seen you for a long time. Why haven't you come to play with our Richard recently? My mom enthusiastically led Willow into the house and patted my door, asking me to come out and entertain the guest. Richard, Willow is here. Come out quickly. I frowned and was not very happy. But I still tittied up and came out of the room. What are you looking for me for? Let's talk outside. I looked at my mom. She was enthusiastically picking vegetables and planning to cook a delicious meal for Willow. She still didn't know Willow's self-degradation and still regarded her as the top student and good girl back then. Willow didn't know what she was covering up. She even brought an exercise book on purpose. Was she afraid that I would tell my parents about her misdeeds and my parents would no longer let her in? When I asked her to go out and talk, it was also to save her last bit of face in front of my parents. For I followed Willow out of the house. She took me to the pavilion behind the building in the community. What's the matter? I didn't have much patience to entangle with her. Still want me to take the blame for her? Instead of going on a date with your little boyfriend. Why are you looking for me? Do you want me to take the blame again? I looked at her coldly. Willow bit her lip and looked like she was about to cry. Richard. If you have something to say. Don't waste time. Willow was interrupted by me and her eyes became even redder. Richard. My mom doesn't plan to pay for me to continue studying. I was stunned for a moment and didn't know what to say for a while. Willow's tears finally couldn't help falling. Because of some things. Stephen. He broke up with me. Then, somehow my mom found out about this and also knew that my decline in grades was because of Stephen. She said that with my current grades, I can't get into a good university anyway. Let me simply drop out of school and go to work to help the family pay off debts. Then what? I interrupted her. You came to me, just to tell me this? Willow shook her head. No. Then what on earth do you want to say? Just say it directly. Don't beat around the bush. I still have to go back and do my homework. I was a little impatient. Willow bit her lip and hesitated to speak. Richard. I still want to study. I don't want to fall in love anymore. Can you lend me some money? I looked at Willow and felt a burst of sadness. The former Willow was such a glorious person. A beautiful top student in the eyes of teachers and classmates. Now she has fallen to this point. I didn't speak. She anxiously grabbed my hand. Richard. I promise you that I have broken up with Stephen. I promise to study hard from now on. Can you trust me again? I looked at her and felt mixed emotions. More than 10 years of relationship. After all, I still can't bear to let this flower of hers rot in the quagmire. After all, the things in the nightmare didn't really happen. I am taking a chance. Maybe if I make a change at this time node, there won't be those things later. Although my family is not particularly wealthy, I still want to give her another chance. Okay. I'll lend it to you. 4,000 yuan. Is it enough? Enough for you to study until graduation. 5 when I got home. My mom had already cooked the meal. Where's Willow? She went home. My mom knocked on my forehead. You naughty boy. Didn't you see that mom had prepared everything when you went out? Why didn't you keep her? I was in a bad mood and didn't pay attention to my mom's teasing. While eating, I picked up my phone that I hadn't touched for a week and opened Moments. I saw Willow post a status. The picture is a thick stack of 5-year college entrance examination preparation books. One for each subject of Chinese, mathematics, and English. The caption, Fight hard for 100 days. I want to get into Tingshui University, or Peking University. I was immediately relieved and felt a little comforted. I felt that Willow should have been corrected by me. The things in the nightmare should not happen. After the nightmare, a suppressed mood finally got a little better. After having dinner, Mom and Dad asked me to go out for a walk together. I was in a good mood, so I put down my heavy homework and planned to go out to relax. Unexpectedly, when passing by the square, I saw Willow being held in Stephen's arms. Suddenly, I was struck by lightning. I rubbed my eyes, suspecting that I had read books for too long, and my eyes were blurry. Willow should be doing problems at home at this time. How could she appear here with Stephen? She said that they had broken up. The two were coming out of our local famous electronic city. Stephen was holding the latest game console in his hand. The two walked side by side, chatting and laughing as they headed to the cinema. My heart immediately sank to the bottom. I opened the photo on Willow's Moments, and looked at it carefully again and again. Only then did I find that the watermark of a certain book in the lower right corner hadn't been removed. 6. I called Willow. She didn't answer. I sent her a WeChat message asking what she was doing, and she didn't reply either. I returned home with my parents in a daze. At night, when I was about to fall asleep lying on the bed, my phone finally made a ding sound. Willow replied to me. Richard. I was just doing problems. I didn't look at my phone. What's the matter? She also sent me a test paper she had just finished. I opened it. After it was graded and corrected with the previous experience, I enlarged the picture, and the flaws were immediately exposed. The ink of the black pen on it hadn't dried yet. The traces of the red pen were also written in a hurry. There were even some places where the red and black ink were smudged together. This test paper was made by you just now, right? I typed and sent it. There was no reply from there for a long time. I couldn't tell whether it was disappointment or something in my heart. I just felt that Willow was really a liar and couldn't change it anymore. The 4,000 yuan I just regarded it as spending 4,000 yuan to recognize a person's true face. From now on, I won't help her anymore. I deleted Willow's WeChat and put her mobile phone number on the blacklist. I put down my phone and closed my eyes. This time, what she did was really too outrageous. She completely consumed the last bit of kindness and favor I had for her. The next day when I went to school, Willow greeted me friendly. I don't know if she later found out that I had blocked her. She still doesn't know that I have discovered the secret between her and Stephen. Richard. Good morning. Willow greeted me with a smile. She smiled very happily as if nothing had happened yesterday. I responded coldly and then ignored her. Stephen also came over and put his arm around Willow's shoulder to show his sovereignty. Willow. Why are you greeting him? Willow quickly pushed his hand away and glanced at me embarrassed. Lie. Richard. Listen to me explain. I and Stephen. Well. Saying that breaking up was also pretending to deceive me. Willow stammered for a long time, and couldn't say a word. I sneered, buried my head in the book, and ignored them. When I looked up again, there was no sign of Willow and Stephen in the classroom. And suddenly I felt a pain in my lower abdomen. It was a sign of having diarrhea. I raised my hand and reported to the teacher and went to the toilet. But in the men's room, I heard the voices of Stephen and Willow. 7. Stephen. Be more careful next time. The whole toilet was filled with a strong smell of smoke. I couldn't help frowning and raised my hand to fan in front of my nose. Looking inside, Stephen was spitting the smoke from his mouth into Willow's mouth. Willow was enjoying it. So disgusting. Don't oppose Richard. If it's too ugly, how can he give me money? How can I buy you the latest sneakers you've wanted for so long? The money for buying the game console and watching movies last night was all his. Bear with it a little longer. When we graduate and earn money by ourselves, we will be free. Unexpectedly, they didn't forget to mention me while flirting in the men's room. It's really hard for them to always remember me. I'll listen to you. I can dig you. Such an excellent girl. From Richard. A top student. That's my honor in my life. I'll listen to whatever you say. I will prove with time that your choice is right. Oh. What are you talking about? I never liked that bookworm. He is so boring. He only knows to tell me to study every day. There is not only one way to go in life. I like men like you who are unruly and flamboyant. Unlike him who only knows to bury his head in studying boringly every day. There is no fun at all. No matter how good he is to me. Such a boring person. If I were with him, my life would be ruined. I watched Willow kiss him on the lips and comfort him softly. It was a look I had never seen before. I'm just stringing him along because I can use him. Before, I was always bullied. With him around, he can protect me. Stephen laughed. Now that I'm protecting you, that wimp is useless. Don't hang out with him anymore. I'm jealous. They said a lot. The more I listened, the angrier I became. But it's them who talk bad about people behind their backs and feel guilty. I won't delay my return to class because of them. I pushed the door open with a snap. The two people inside looked at me in surprise. Willow wanted to explain. I interrupted her. If you two don't want to be famous throughout the school for messing around in the toilet, then get out of the men's room. Stephen snorted coldly and pulled Willow away. Richard also goes to the toilet during class. I thought that once you touch a book, you become a wooden man and can't move. Since I met them in the toilet that day, Willow and Stephen haven't come to school for several days. I was busy with my own affairs, and didn't pay attention to them. But Willow and I used to be a golden couple in the eyes of others. We had such a good relationship that after many classmates knew that we were childhood sweethearts, they made fun of our relationship. So after they knew the gossip about Willow, they took the initiative to share it with me. Richard, do you know what happened to Willow recently? I shook my head and continued reading my book without looking up. Let me tell you. She was taken by Stephen to gamble. She lost all her money and still owed a lot of debts. I heard from my mom that she was kicked out of the house by her mom and was beaten until her head was bleeding. It was a big fuss. The neighbors all saw it. Seeing that I wasn't interested, that person still couldn't hold back his desire to share and continued talking. His family also lives on the same street as mine. What he said should be true. Her mom asked her to pay back the money. She couldn't pay it back. So she was kicked out of the house. She also cut off the mother-daughter relationship for fear that the debt collectors would come to her. Such a big thing. Didn't your mom tell you? I have been living in school recently and didn't go back on weekends. I don't know what happened there at home. Mom and Dad may be afraid of affecting my study, and didn't tell me. After all, everyone has seen how good I have been to Willow these years. They may think that I won't be able to accept it. Little do they know that I have already seen Willow's true colors clearly. The chirping voices of classmates gossiping made me unable to read the questions. I was just about to drive them away when Willow came. The classmates looked rather embarrassed and scattered. Richard. Willow sat down in the seat in front of me and faced me. I glanced at her. Her face was very bad. There were dark circles under her eyes. She looked listless and haggard. Don't believe them. I just had a fight with my mom. I definitely didn't do those things. She didn't look very convincing. You look so bad. Where did you go last night? Willow was stunned for a moment. I was doing problems at home last night. I've been sick these days. So I didn't come to school. Does my face look bad? Don't worry. I'm really studying. By the way, my 5-year college entrance examination preparation exercise book seems to be left at home. I'm not feeling well. My mom sent it to the alley next to it. Can you go and get it for me? The scene coincided with my nightmare. I was startled into a cold sweat. I couldn't even hold the pen in my hand and it fell on the table. Richard? What's wrong with you? I was called back to my senses by Willow's shout, and quickly calmed down. I asked Willow coldly, is there really a 5-year college entrance examination preparation exercise book at your home? Willow's face turned pale and then pale again, showing a guilty look. She snorted and left the seat in front of me. If you don't help, then don't help. You actually suspect me. Didn't you still like my moments? I don't know what medicine Willow is selling in her gourd. Anyway, if I don't go and get the book for her, my life should be saved. I only know that in the afternoon of that day, many police cars and ambulances came to the alley next door. I followed the crowd and went to the fence to watch the excitement. Stephen was carried onto a stretcher covered in blood and sent to the hospital. He is much stronger than me. When he got on the car, he was still conscious. Several familiar hooligans were also carried into the car covered in blood. In the meantime, the two groups of people were still scolding each other and using vulgar language, attracting a bunch of onlookers. This boy is my neighbor. He has never studied since he was a child, and always does bad things. Finally, he got his retribution. Yes, my daughter is in the same school as him. She said that he often extorts protection fees from classmates. If he can't get the money, he will pull people into the toilet and beat them up. It's really hateful. Didn't there be a group fight some time ago? Many people saw it. Do you know what he did wrong? I was there when the fight started just now. It seems that this boy played with the woman of the loan shark boss on the other side. So, he was called out and beaten up. Oh my God. He is so capable of fighting. One against many. He is really a good seed for being a hooligan. What can such a person do after graduating? Everyone was discussing Stephen's heroic deeds in a hubbub. I also completely understood the general process of the incident from their mouths. The mystery of the nightmare was finally solved. I thought that after such a big incident, the two of them should calm down. But there is one thing that I find very strange. In the end, only Stephen, who had bandages on his hands and feet, came back to school. On the contrary, Willow, who was standing aside and was pale with fright, didn't come to study for 2 or 3 months. Was she scared stupid? I have no way of knowing. Willow didn't come back until a week before the college entrance examination. She didn't seem to have changed much. She didn't look like she had suffered any hardships. On the contrary, she was radiant. She also carried a famous brand school bag and wore famous brand shoes and clothes abnormal. Even that face looked a lot rounder. When she came back, Stephen was playing and joking with the little girl at his front desk. How could a person like him endure loneliness? In the months when Willow was away, he had already hooked up with other girls. But Willow is just mean. She didn't care at all about his ambiguity with other girls. She stuck to him and wanted to regain Stephen's heart. I don't know what happened between the two of them. It felt like Stephen's eyes looking at Willow were full of disgust. The thing Willow couldn't bear the most was Stephen's cold violence. Seeing that he liked the little punk girl at the front desk, she dyed her hair golden, put on heavy smoky makeup, and learned to use vulgar language. When she entered the class that day, all of us classmates almost didn't recognize her. The teacher was also very headache about her and felt sorry that she had become so stupid. Maybe the teacher also couldn't understand. Obviously, she was a rising star. How did she become like this stupid? But because this is the last week, the teacher is too lazy to care about these people for fear of getting into trouble. In this last week, Willow lost her restraint and lived extremely freely, forming a sharp contrast with the normal students who were buried in studying hard. The night before the college entrance examination, the school had a holiday and asked us all to go home and have a good rest and prepare to go to the examination room tomorrow. When I left school, I saw Willow being pressed to the ground and beaten by several social girls. She looked at Stephen, who was watching the fun aside pitifully. But Stephen watched her being beaten with his arms folded, and had no intention of saving her at all. That road is the only way for me to go home. I walked past without changing my expression. When passing by Willow, I had no intention of saving her at all. When I helped Willow once when I was a child, I became her scapegoat since then. So this time, I won't repeat the same mistake and help her. Until after having dinner at night, I heard about her again. Mom and Dad came back from a walk outside, and told me that several ambulances had gone to Willow's house. 11. It is said that Willow was seriously injured and unconscious. Mom and Dad saw Willow being carried onto the ambulance covered in red blood. The white dress was completely stained. They didn't know if she could take the college entrance examination tomorrow. Although I really hate her now. But I still hope to see her come tomorrow. I don't know why I have this mentality. The next day, I got on the bus from school to the examination room. The first thing I did was to look for Willow. There is one bus for each class. All the classmates in our class have arrived. Only Willow and Steven are missing. I sighed and felt a little complicated. Unexpectedly, I didn't see them this time. When I saw them again, it was already when I was a junior and went to an internship in a big factory in Shenzhou. I saw them on the high-speed rail to Shenzhou. Willow was wearing all big brands. And Steven also had a lot of famous brand clothes and shoes. I noticed them completely because they were arguing with a passenger because of their seats. Everyone in the whole carriage was looking. Although they were clearly in the wrong, their yelling voices were extremely loud. Getting everyone's attention seemed to give them a sense of accomplishment. But in the end, they didn't win the argument. The other person was a cultured person. They didn't follow the path of quarreling. They played by the rules with them. The train police came and separated them. Only then did I understand the cause and result of the matter. It turned out that it was because they bought 3 seats in a row. But when the tickets were issued, it was one person in seat A and one person in seat C. In the middle seat B, there happened to be a beautiful girl sitting. Willow couldn't accept any woman coming into contact with Steven. Even if it was just sitting next to him, she would be jealous. She forced the person to change seats with her but failed. So she made a big fuss here and insulted that innocent girl for trying to seduce her boyfriend. Now, she was sent back to seat C. When she came back, she turned around and faced me directly. I was shocked. Her lower abdomen was slightly bulging. It seemed that she was 4 or 5 months pregnant. 12 just like me. They also came to work. I sat behind them and listened to them talking. After graduating from high school, neither of them went to school anymore. When they reached the age, they directly got their marriage certificates. Later, the 2 of them have been living off their parents at home and using Willow's mother's money. Used to living extravagantly before. It is difficult to go from luxury to frugality. They squandered all of Steven's mother's savings over the years and were kicked out of the house. Originally, if she had taken the college entrance examination with Willow's level, although she had regressed a lot. But after all, a skinny camel is bigger than a horse. Maybe she could still get into a 3rd-tier college, or a fairly good junior college. Now with only a high school diploma, she can only accompany Steven to work in Shenzhou. But there was no trace of regret on Willow's face. Instead, she was filled with a happy smile. Along the way, she was chatting and laughing with Steven as if they were a happy newlywed couple. She must be extremely happy to be able to stay with Steven forever. Right? I watched them get off the high-speed rail station and directly get on the factory bus of the electronics factory. And that electronics factory is also the assembly line workshop under the company where I am going to intern this time. Looking at the flower that was blooming just right before. Now it has fallen into the quagmire and been crushed into dust. I laughed and embarked on my own journey, respecting the fate of others. Later, I started a business with several classmates and achieved quite a lot. After that, I brought my parents to live in the city where my company is located, and never heard about Willow again. Until I became successful and wanted to help my hometown. I returned to that small town again. The leaders of the district came to welcome me in person, and held a luxurious welcome banquet for me. He took me on a tour. The small town has hardly changed in these few years. Only the house of my family has been idle for a long time and has some dust. When I came back, Willow's mother was sitting at the door washing vegetables. She recognized me at a glance, knowing that I had become prosperous in the past 2 years. She came forward and wanted to be related to me. She called my name, hoping to make me turn back. The district leader asked me if I knew her. I didn't say anything, just shook my head, understanding what I meant. The bodyguard directly separated her from me. She couldn't touch a piece of my sleeve. Seeing that I didn't look right, the people in the district booked the most high-end hotel for me, including food and accommodation, and invited me to stay here and play for a few more days. Recently, business is not busy. The company is watched by the people below. I stayed at ease. Unexpectedly, at night, a woman knocked on my door. 13. I opened the door and didn't recognize who the person was for a while. That woman looked like she was in her 40s. There were fine lines on her face, and a lot of white hairs mixed in her hair. Her eyes were red and swollen, and she was crying pitifully. There was also a sick child in her arms. There was a cooling patch on the child's forehead. I don't know if the child was awake or asleep. Anyway, the eyes were closed. Richard, I am Willow. Please, can you help me? I really have nowhere to go. This name suddenly brought back a lot of memories. If it weren't for her appearance, I would have forgotten all the past things long ago. I didn't respond to her. She was still rambling about the hardships of these years. She said that her husband, Stephen, didn't come home and gambled, ate, drank, and who read outside, squandering all the family's money. Now their child is sickened, he can't even afford the medical expenses. When she called her husband's phone, no one answered. She begged me to give her some money. She just wanted to save her child. Although I may not be able to pay back this money, I will repay you. I can give you anything you want. As she said that, she was about to pull her collar, completely ignoring that she was still holding her own child in her arms, not caring if her child would see her mother's ugly appearance. This scene seemed to overlap with many years ago. I remembered her words, "I can be your girlfriend." But how can an independent woman sell herself as a bargaining chip to others? And I can't give her money. I lent her the money long ago in that pavilion. I was just about to refuse her when a female voice appeared behind me. "Husband. Who is it? Who are you talking to?" My wife came out of the bathroom after taking a shower. Logically speaking, Willow and I are of the same age, and my wife is 1 year older than me. But in terms of appearance, Willow looked at least 10 years older than my wife. Her face was full of vicissitudes. And my wife, like me, graduated with a Ph.D. from Tsinghua University. She was also a partner who joined my team back then and started a business and fought for success with me. When she walked over, it seemed that she was emitting a soft light. I saw Willow was also stunned. I saw her gather her clothes and feel a little ashamed. "It's nothing. Wife. Don't come out. Don't catch a cold. Someone just knocked on the wrong door. It's no big deal." I slammed the door shut and blocked the view from outside. 14. I have very good hearing. And although this hotel in this small town is already the most high-end one, the sound insulation is still average. Later, I heard Stephen's voice outside the door, accompanied by Willow, and the crying of the child. "Stinky woman. Who allowed you to go out? Come home with me. Why do you smell so bad? Did you sleep with some man again? Bitch. Why don't I give the medical expenses? Is this fucking my child? And I still have to give the medical expenses? Look at this face of yours. Does it look like mine at all? You take a good look. Does this look more like the workshop director of that electronics factory before? Or more like the previous landlord? Or more like those old men you had later? Go and ask them for money. What are you looking for me for?" Listening to his words, the clean girl in my memory gradually became ethereal. It turns out that Willow is not only confused and lovesick, but has already become someone I don't recognize. "Husband. What are you thinking? You are not concentrating." My wife's voice pulled me back to reality again. I pecked her on the lips. "Yes. It's all in the past. I respect the fate of others. Things that I didn't change before, I don't want to change now." Extra episode. Willow won since that encounter on the basketball court that day. I fell in love with that tall, handsome, and unruly boy. He is different from the atmosphere of the whole school. It forms a strong contrast with my 12-year study life before. No one told me that people can live so freely. His freedom and flamboyance are something I have never seen before. When I was hit by his ball, I knew that I was moved. Of course, I know that many things he took me to do are wrong, such as smoking, drinking, and fighting, but these are really so novel. I haven't been in contact with these in my 18 years before. To be honest, after being together, he is not very good to me. Nor does he have so many touching love words and so many meticulous attentions as when he was chasing me. But the feeling he gives me is completely different from that of Richard, the top student. It is his appearance that makes there be other things in my life besides studying. During the time when I was in love, I felt that it was the happiest day since I grew up. Later, when he ran out of money, taking advantage of the teacher going out for a meal, he climbed in through the window and stole the teacher's wallet. After being discovered by the teacher, he found me, knelt down and slapped himself, cried and sold himself pitifully to me, and asked me to take the blame for him. But now my grades are not good. If I take the blame for him, I will definitely be scolded by the teacher. And according to my relationship with him, he might be involved. So I found Richard again and hoped that he could help me. He has such good grades. The teacher will definitely not blame him. But I didn't expect that the boy who was once so obedient to me actually refused my request after waking up from a dream. I always thought that he liked me very, very much. As long as I said that I could be his girlfriend, he should agree. But who knew that he actually called me shameless? I feel that I can't communicate with him at all. His ideological realm is too low and can't keep up with my thoughts. I told this matter to Stephen. He actually said that I didn't care about him, since Richard refused to go. He asked me to go and kneel down and beg the teacher myself. In fact, when Stephen said those words, I was both sad and angry and even considered breaking up with him. How could he ask me to do such a thing without any dignity? Does he have me in his heart at all? But he hugged me and kissed me. The hormones on his body made me unable to resist. Somehow, my mind was muddled, and I agreed to him. Many years later, when I think of it again, when I knelt in front of the teacher and cried bitterly and begged for mercy, the teacher's pained eyes finally made me understand the meaning. Unfortunately, I couldn't listen to anything back then. Stephen took me to gamble, and I didn't object. We lost all our money and still owed a lot of debts. He said he would go and talk to the big boss and ask if he could extend the deadline. Unexpectedly, he didn't succeed in the business. Somehow, he slept with the big boss's woman. The big boss made an appointment with him at the school gate. He came to me again to ask me to help him like last time. I had the idea of asking Richard to take the blame for him again. But he seemed to have the ability to predict the future and directly refused me. I was so ashamed. In order to ask the big boss to let Stephen go, I had to be a servant and make amends to the big sister. I was a plaything for 3 months. I not only had to clean up all their housework, in order to make them happy, I also had to lie on the ground and bark like a dog and eat all their leftovers. Fortunately, they all ate good things. After 3 months, I even gained a lot of weight. The big sister was happy and sometimes gave me some money. At that time, I had lost all my backbone. I actually felt that it was so easy to make money. When they let me leave, I was still a little reluctant. Later, in order to pursue luxury goods and please Stephen, I completely degenerated. My mom's meager salary was not enough for us to spend it all. For money, I began to sell my body. I exchanged various famous brands for myself. So what if Stephen was hooked away by other women? I gave him money. A lot of money. He obediently let me control him, and didn't dare to go out and find others. Money is really a good thing. I used my youth to earn a lot of money. In the meantime, Stephen had no objections at all. He spoiled me in the palm of his hand and didn't mind my dirty past at all. But people will grow old one day. My flowering period seems to be extremely short. No one wants me anymore. Stephen also ended the days of living off me at home and was forced to go out to work. The man who was so good to our mother and son suddenly seems to have changed. He suspected every day that the child was not his and felt that our mother and son were eating his free meals. I was very angry. But without Beauty, it seemed that I had nothing to use. I couldn't resist him. Until that day when I heard my mom say that Richard was back. I was very excited and ran to the hotel where he was and found him. He was still almost the same as before, except that he became a little more mature. How much I regretted that I didn't struggle hard with him back then. Looking at his glamour, I still fantasize in my heart. If I hadn't met Stephen back then, I should be like this now, right? How I want to regain his heart. I even thought of taking off my clothes in front of his door regardless of everything. But the woman who appeared behind him slapped me twice. Yes. Such an excellent person. How could he lack women? After being dragged away by Stephen, I returned home and looked at myself in the mirror over and over again. How did I become like this? How did my youth and everything of mine slip away from my fingertips?